Hello everyone, my name is Conrad on behalf of Camera Stuff. Hope you're doing swimmingly well today. Okay, so before we get started, I'm just going to give it a bit more time to allow more people to join. So otherwise, hope you had a good Monday, the start of another week. Hope it was a productive one. So in the meantime, if you are already joined, tell me where you're from, what's your name? So as always, if you have questions to ask, please drop them in the comment section. Okay, I see more and more people joining. It's a good sign. Okay, I'm just going to give it a bit more time before we get started. Okay, so tell me where you're from, who you are. Say hello to me in the comment section. All right, so I think we have enough people joined. Okay, great stuff. Hello, again, my name is Conrad on behalf of Camera Stuff, and today we're going to talk about flash triggers. Now, before we get started with that, I'm just going to give you a brief description of what off-camera flash is. Now, off-camera flash is when you take the flash off your camera and you put it somewhere else, ideally on a light stand somewhere. Although I have seen people use a variety of different types of brackets. I've even seen a photographer use duct tape and stuck a speed light against his studio wall. But principally, that is what it's about. So it's about taking your flash off your camera. And the reason why you want to do that is because you want to move the light around your subject so that you can create a sense of shape and dimension as far as your subject and lighting is concerned. So if you have your flash on top of your camera, the light tends to be quite flat and uninteresting. Now, obviously, if your flash is off your camera, it's disconnected. So how do you create a connection between flash and camera? Well, there are a variety of reasons, but the most popular option would be that of radio-controlled flash triggers. So a couple of examples here. And for a couple of very, very good reasons, you might want to prefer using radio-controlled flash triggers. Okay, so option number one, or benefit number one, should I say, is that it's wireless. So you don't need to deal with a spaghetti mess, a spaghetti-like mess of cables. So being wireless, you don't need to worry about tethering or connecting your flash with your camera using any cables whatsoever. So that is a huge benefit. Benefit number two is that they do give you quite a big range. Some of these flash triggers enable you to trigger your flash up to 100 meters away. I can't imagine why you would need to do that, why you need to place your flash 100 meters away from you, but it just says how strong the signal is, and that is what is important. So in a close proximity, you have a very strong signal to work with, which means fewer misfires, if any, whatsoever. So working with a very strong signal, that is very important. And benefit number three, using radio-controlled flash triggers, is that you don't need line of sight. So you can place your flash behind a subject, you can hide it behind a wall, you can place it in a softbox, you can place it in different rooms if you want, because the signal is that strong. So your flash doesn't need to see the transmitter or the camera, so as opposed to optical flash triggering. So that is a huge benefit when it comes to radio-controlled flash triggering, is that the signal is immensely strong, so you can position your flashes fairly all around the show, so you don't need line of sight between camera or transmitter and flash. All right, so as opposed to other means of flash triggering, I definitely recommend radio-controlled flash triggering. Now, as far as radio flash triggers are concerned, you get many different types from many different brands, but broadly speaking, all of them do the same thing. So typically and traditionally, what you got was a transmitter and a receiver as part of a flash triggering kit. So that is what the kit is comprised of, a transmitter and a receiver. So the transmitter, you pop on top of your flash. So let's unlock it a little bit. So the transmitter goes on top of the camera, normally where your flash goes, and receiver will go underneath the flash itself. Just lock that in place. So this creates a wireless connection between camera and flash. So when you press the shutter button, the flash will go off at the same time. And it's all wireless, as I said. Okay, now as far as wireless flash triggers are concerned, broadly speaking, you get two different types. You get manual flash triggers and TTL flash triggers, or dumb flash triggers, or smart flash triggers, as I like to call them. Now, typically with manual flash triggers or dumb flash triggers, they only activate the flash. So none of the TTL or auto data set by your camera is transferred to the flash itself. So that means if you want to go up and down with the power, you physically have to walk towards the flash and press a few buttons on the flash. And typically you need to take a whole bunch of test photos, adjust the flash settings in between until you see something that you're happy with. So that was pretty much the traditional means of doing it. It's a little bit annoying, as I said. Luckily, with TTL flash triggers, all of that TTL auto data set by the camera itself, that is indeed transferred to the flash. So TTL, in short, is basically the flash's auto mode. So we'll use the camera's internal light meter to determine how much flash output you need per given photo. So as I said, in short, it's like the auto mode as far as the flash is concerned. And also with these TTL flash triggers, you'll have the manual mode available to you as well. So if that is your preference, if you like shooting your flash in manual mode, both options are available to you. And also typically to TTL flash triggers, they have high-speed sync. So if that is important to you, you need to have these TTL flash triggers. Manual flash triggers won't do the job for you if you want to shoot high-speed sync. All right, so some flash triggers are known as flash controllers because directly from the device itself, so this is the Godox X-Pro, directly from the device itself, you can control the flash output, the modes, the flash zoom, etc., directly from this device itself, which is a godsend. You know, I've been in the business or off-camera flash business for about 12 years now, and initially it required a lot of running, walking around to adjust the flash outputs. But with this, you can do all of that from one standing position using the flash controller itself. So just to reiterate, with a flash controller, you can adjust the flash output, you can change modes, and you can also adjust the flash zoom directly from the device itself. All right, so I'm just going to pause a little bit here. So if you have any questions thus far, please do drop them in the comments. There's a reason why we do these live, so that we can interact with you guys. All right, so I'm just going to reiterate a couple of things. So manual flash triggers, you get many different types from many different brands, but broadly speaking, they do exactly the same thing. They trigger your flash off camera. Now within the group of flash triggers, you get two different types, broadly speaking. Manual flash triggers, or dumb flash triggers, as I like to call them. With these, none of the auto data or TTL data from your camera is transferred to the flash. So if you want to go up and down with the power, you physically have to walk to the flash itself and press buttons, adjust the power on the flash itself. TTL flash triggers, however, they do tend to be a bit more expensive, but with that, all of the smart data, the auto data, the TTL data are set by your camera, that is indeed transferred to the flash. So you can operate your flash in auto mode, so to speak. So the camera, using its internal light meter, will figure out how much flash output you need per given photo. Plus, typical with TTL flash triggers, they have high-speed sync mode also available. Now, in modern times, brands have developed what are known as flash controllers. So these are transmitters, but they also enable you to adjust flash settings from the device itself. So if you have multiple speed lights, from one standing position, you can adjust the power, the zoom, the modes, etc. So you don't need to walk around and adjust the flashes within the studio environment or outdoors, wherever you may find yourself shooting. Okay. So again, if you have any questions, please do drop them in the comments. All right, now, some brands like Godox, their receivers. So as I said, traditionally, you have a transmitter and a receiver. But nowadays, many brands will bolt their receivers within the flash itself. Will it up that flow? Oh, yeah. Sorry, just hold on. Getting my ducks in a row. So this receiver that you'd normally need to use, this receiver is built into the flash. So that is a massive convenience, considering that you don't need to buy additional receivers for every flash that you want to use. It's directly built into the device itself. So that will save you quite a lot of money, and it's very convenient as well. As I said, I've been in a flash game for quite a while. I've been using 4 or 5 flashes, which means I need to charge a stupid amount of batteries because all of these receivers use batteries as well. So it's just an amazing technology that all of these flashes within the Godox range have these receivers built in. So you can use something like a Godox Xpro or a Godox X2. I'll talk about these devices in a moment. These will activate all of the modern Godox flashes and strobes. So you can mix and match. You can use an 8200, a TT600, an 8600, V1, etc., all part of the same setup. And that transmitter will communicate with all of them. All right, so it's very brand specific. So the Godox X-System only applies to Godox goodies, but you have other brands that pretty much do the same thing as well. Their lineup may not be as extensive as what Godox is, but those options are also available. All right, so I got a couple of questions. Okay, Brendan, do all of the Godox speedlights overheat like the TT600? This is common with speedlights, considering that a speedlight doesn't have active cooling. So within a speedlight, they don't have a fan buzzing to keep the components cool. They don't have ventilation. They don't have massive heat sinks. So typically with excessive use, they do overheat. And that's just kind of the nature of most speedlights. Because as I said, they don't have that active cooling. Plus, these speedlights, most of them will have a temperature protection mode. So when the speedlights do overheat, they'll automatically slow down the recycle time. So that is just the speedlight protecting itself, just to prevent it from overheating. So yes, it is unfortunate. It's just a thing with speedlights, generally speaking. If you want something that does not overheat as frequently, choose a strobe. So the strobes, they do have active cooling. So the fans, the massive heat sinks, ventilation, etc. as well. So I see just a follow-up question. Yes, so the 80 range is better. Definitely for that reason, considering that they don't overheat. The 8200, mind you, does overheat not as quickly as the speedlight, but if you want something that doesn't overheat, buy the bigger units because they have these big chunks of heat sinks built into them, so they can tolerate higher temperatures. All right, so Jason asking, my trigger does not seem to activate high-speed sync to a Godox 8300 Pro. So maybe a variety of reasons there. I think it would be best just to contact us afterwards. It could be the synchronization not set up. That's just a simple button, although there could be other reasons as well. So just drop us a comment. I'll try to get into contact with you after the live, so I can just double check what may go wrong there. But the Godox 8300 with its Godox trigger should definitely work with high-speed sync. Perfect. 801200 losing. Okay, so I probably should have mentioned the 801200. So the cool thing about the 801200 is that the battery is built externally, so it's an external battery pack. So that's where all the heat is. So it's away from the strobe, where that's typically what is building the heat in the first place, the active strobing. So yes, the 801200. Sorry, I should have mentioned that, but yes, that's the best format out of the lot. But if you have 30,000 Rand lying around, then definitely the 801200 is an option for you. All right, so just to get back to my slides. All right, so I spoke about the Godox X-System. Okay, yeah, so considering that within the Godox range, these receivers are built inside of the unit, so with their speed lights, their strobes, etc., that means you only need the transmitter itself. All right, so will the 8200 be good for interior photography? Yes. So typically with indoor photography, your flash output doesn't need to be excessively high when working outdoors, or as opposed to working outdoors. So the 8200, I've seen many people use the 8200 for interior architectural photography. So what will be good for that is that little dome that you pop on top of the flash head that will just distribute the light evenly across the room. So you don't have like a focused beam or angle or projection of light in the corner of the room. So we like to call that the nuclear bomb light modifier. So you just attach that onto the Godox 8200 head, that will create a nice dispersion of light around the room. Annalene Pinar say the 8600 Pros are amazing. Yeah, definitely the top of the range 8600 Pros are incredible as far as tolerating heat is concerned, super fast recycle time, obviously the 600 watts per second output, TTL manual mode, it's everything that you need. All right, so, okay, just getting back to my slide, just figuring out where I was. So for Godox X-System, as I said, with Godox strobes and speed lights, they have the receivers built into them. Okay, so let's talk about some common features as far as flash triggers are concerned. Okay, so most flash triggers will have channels. Now, what on earth may channels be? Well, let me use an analogy, right? So let's say you arrive home and you may have automatic garage doors or automatic gates. When you press the button on your remote, you don't want all of the gates and all of the garage doors opening within the neighborhood. So your remote has a unique channel set for your gate or garage door, whatever it may be. So flash triggers have a very, very similar technology. So when you're using a flash, let me paint this scenario for you. So let's say you're at a photographic open day and there are many photographers around, and some of them may be using the same equipment as you. Now, when you start taking photos, you don't want their flashes to activate. And when they start taking photos, you don't want your flashes to activate. So what you can do is set a unique channel to your transmitter and the flash or receiver, whatever you may be using. So that just keeps cross interference from happening, which can easily happen. I've been to many photographic open days and it was quite chaotic initially. So what you can do in that situation is just go to all of these photographers and say, hey, I'm channel 1, you're channel 2, you're channel 3, you're channel 4, etc., etc. So that will just prevent the cross triggering. Okay, so just to show you a few examples here. So as far as old-fashioned flash triggers are concerned, they have these little dip switches. That is to set the channel between the transmitter and the receiver. So you can individually push down or push up these little dip switches. So whatever you do with the transmitter, it needs to match on the receiver as well. So if you push some of them down, whatever you do, it needs to be identical with the receiver. So with that, you create a unique channel between your transmitter and your receiver. Okay, I don't know if you may see this. Let me just pop that open. So these are my personal equipment. You may see it's a little bit scratched and bashed, but here you can see in the top left-hand corner, the transmitter, the Godox Xpro specifically set to channel 25, and my flash set to 25 as well. So typically when people buy these flash triggers, they'll phone us the next day and say nothing's working. 90% of the time, it's because the channels don't match. So the channels do need to match between the transmitter and the flash or receiver, whatever you may be using. If they don't match, they won't activate whatsoever. Okay, let's talk about groups. All right, so let's say you're using multiple flashes, right? So let's say in a studio environment, you have your key light, your fill light, your couple of backdrop lights, you have a hair light, you have a rim light, so 5 flashes in total. So with this group function, you can designate every flash to a group or a letter. So your key light may be group A, your fill-in light may be group B, your 2 backdrop lights in combination may be group C, and your hair light may be group D, etc., etc. So with a group function, as you can see with some of these flash triggers, for example, the X2, we have these little buttons, A, B, C, D, and E. So you press the A button, and that will allow you to independently adjust group A. So in this scenario, that being the key light. So with this group function, you can independently set the flash output and the modes of multiple flashes individually. So you can do that if you want to, if you want all of the power to go up or all of the power to go down. But if you want to fine tune just individual flashes, this is where the group function comes in quite handy. So again, just to show you, with the X2 in particular, you have all of these buttons. So if you want to adjust group A, as I said, in our scenario, that would be our key light. Just press A, and you can adjust the flash output of that flash itself without affecting any of the other flashes. Okay, I'm just going to jump to a couple of questions. or a statement, should I rather say, for modeling light on food and product photography is also an added bonus. Okay, so this relating to the 8600. Yes, but LED modeling light is quite powerful on itself. Some people have been using it as video lights as well. Yeah, so just an added bonus when it comes to the 8600. No overheating as well. As I said, these big strobes, they may be quite clunky and difficult to transport, but they have these chunks of heat sinks built in, so they just suck up all of that excess temperature. Okay, I have the V1. Can I set it to ETTL and high-speed sync so that it covers all of my bases? Fairly good point. Just something to consider. So if you're not using high-speed sync, so if your shutter speed is not above the sync speed, 250th of a second, it's going to suck up battery life quite quickly. So if you don't need high-speed sync, it's otherwise advisable just to switch it off, because with high-speed sync, the flash bursts multiple times. So obviously, per exposure of a flash going off multiple times, that will obviously drain the battery faster. And also with ETTL, yes, the ETL is an option. ETTL can get it wrong, so your exposure may be up and down, but at least it will put you in the right ballpark. So thereafter, you can just make some micro adjustments. So ETL is just wonderful to use. Sometimes you can get it wrong, but you can use that flash exposure compensation just to fine-tune the adjustments. Okay, so I'm going to pause it here again. So if you have any more questions to ask, please drop them in the comment section. Okay, so I'm going to reiterate some of the points made. All right, so typical with flash triggers, they have channels, so that just avoids cross interference. So your transmitter and receiver, you can set a designated channel to whatever you're using. So that just avoids you triggering somebody else's lights. So that may happen, for example, at a photographic open day. I've seen it happen at weddings with first and second shooters. So it just allows you to just trigger your equipment alone. All right, so I should have said that the Godox X2, they have, yes, the Godox X2 and the Xpro, they have channel IDs as well. So that just allows you to avoid cross-contamination as far as other radio frequencies are concerned, because we're always surrounded by radio frequencies. So you can select unique channel IDs as well, so just to avoid all of that contamination and misfiring. Okay, so with old-fashioned flash triggers, they have these dip switches, so whatever the dip switch on the transmitter or what they are set to, that needs to match on your receiver. Modern stuff, has the digital displays, obviously. So again, whatever the channel on your transmitter is, that needs to match on the flash or receiver that you're using. Okay, groups is a wonderful function. So if you're using multiple flashes, you can independently and individually set the flash output and flash modes of each flash. So you don't have to go up and down with all of your settings all at once. So you can fine-tune every flash individually. All right, so let's compare the Godox X2T with the Xpro. So these are the best flash triggers that we sell, at least. So if you're within the Godox family, if you're using Godox flashes or plan to, these are the two options that you need to look at. So the common features include, well, they have all of the flash modes available. So it's TTL, manual mode, and multi-mode. There are flash controllers, so that allows you to adjust the settings from the device itself. They have that group selections, as I just spoken about, and obviously the Godox X-System built in, so they can communicate directly with Godox strobes and Godox speedlights. But there are some differences. Some may be worth considering. So with the X2, it has an onboard hot shoe. So right on the device, it's an onboard hot shoe. Okay, for a couple of reasons, this may be useful to you. Number one, you can stack flash triggers. Let me just enlarge that. Okay, so it may look a little bit silly. So you can create a bit of a totem pole as far as flash triggers are concerned. So if the X2 here, you can combine that with other brands. So for example, if you're using a Godox system or a Young system or a Cactus system, you can combine the two together. So I've done this quite extensively because I have old-fashioned studio strobes. I have some Young speedlights as well. So instead of buying extra receivers, I just combine the transmitters. So that enables me, well, I can do that in the first place with the X2 because it has the onboard hot shoe. So I can combine flash systems by using multiple flash triggers. And obviously, you can put a flash on top of that as well. So that flash can provide you a bit of a fill-in light. I've seen this done at weddings as well. So people will have their off-camera flashes, but on top they'll have the onboard flash as well, because something may happen all the way over there. So something interesting may happen, and instead of picking up your external flashes, they already have the onboard flash. They're ready to be used. So it's a nice plan B option for you need to take photos really quickly. Okay, so with the onboard hot shoe, that just enables you to use an onboard flash, and you can stack it with other flash triggers as well. Okay, with the X2, you have Bluetooth option available as well. So if you download the Godox app on your smartphone and connect it to your X2, you can control the flash settings and also activate the flashes directly from your smartphone. So depending on what you're using, you have this big screen on your hand that will enable you to just better view and see and adjust your flash settings directly from the smartphone itself. Okay, so that's an option. So the Xpro doesn't have this feature. And it's also a topic that may interest some people, the little hot shoe foot here. So the Xpro has a little turn wheel that will just keep the Xpro locked into place. Now, a lot of people don't like this because it's quite easy to break, as opposed to the X2 that has a little twist lock feature. So just with a simple switch, that will just lock the Xpro in place. So instead of turning something up and down, you just twist and lock the X2 in place. So it's a little bit easier to use, a bit faster to use, and a bit more durable as well. So as I said, some people don't like that turn wheel on the hot foot itself. Okay, comment here. I agree about the X2. The little hot shoe is something I did not know about when I started out and I attempted to upgrade. I'm constantly losing my little spirit leveler. All right, yeah, so that little onboard hot shoe is quite useful, especially if you want to mix and match different types of flashes or flash brands, and also to have a flash on board of the camera as well. Let's see here, my Group C I switch on my Xpro is off. For some reason, I can't get it on. The other groups, I switch on and off, but Group C won't switch on. All right, so something like that happens, just reset the flash trigger. So there's an option within the menu. It may require a firmware upgrade as well. So we have seen this happen. It's quite rare every now and then. And typically, just a reset will fix it. Perhaps a firmware upgrade may fix it as well. All right, let's talk about the Xpro. So the Xpro is one I personally use. So it has a bigger screen and a lot of dedicated buttons. So it's a lot easier to find what you need to adjust because most of the functions have a dedicated button for it. Plus, having that larger screen, especially if you're using multiple flashes, it just gives you a better view as to what all the flashes are set to, and you can quickly make adjustments as well. So the group buttons are here down the side, and you can have up to 16 groups with this particular unit as well. So I think if you're using multiple flashes, like in a studio environment or outdoors, if you're using 5, 6 flashes, even 3 or something like that, this is a better unit to use because you just have a better view of what the flashes are set to. Plus, having all of that dedicated buttons just allows you to make settings a lot easier. Okay, so this I've heard is a problem to some photographers. So when you have the X2 on your camera, when you look through the viewfinder, your forehead may poke the X2 screen or buttons or dials. You may actually leave a bit of an oily print from your forehead on the X2 screen as well. So having this angled design just prevents your forehead from making accidental adjustments on the flash trigger itself. Plus, if you're using a tripod, if your tripod is set at, let's say, chest height or hip height, this is just a lot easier to read because of its angled design. So you don't have to bend down and look parallel with the screen to see what the flash settings may be and to make adjustments. So with that angle design, using the camera, your camera on a tripod, that's a lot easier to use. Again, as mentioned with the Xpro, that has 16 groups as opposed to the X2 that has a maximum of 5 groups. So again, I can't imagine why you would need to use 16 flashes. Some may interest some photographers, but that option is available to you if you want to use up to 16 flashes. Sounds a bit bizarre to say it out loud, yes, but you may need to use 16 flashes at some point. Okay, and this is an interesting one. So the Xpro has what is known as a TCM feature. So that stands for TTL converted to manual. So with the flash trigger set to TTL, it will read the camera's internal light meter data, and it will figure out a flash exposure for you. Now, if you press that TCM button, it will translate that TTL data into a manual setting, which is quite awesome. So typically when you use TTL, you don't know what the flash output may be, if it's full power or half power or a quarter power. Sometimes you want to know that information. With TTL, you don't know what that setting is. So if you press that button, it will translate that TTL adjustment to a manual setting. And from there, you can make very tiny incremental adjustments as well. So it's a very useful feature. So as I said, TTL will put you in the right ballpark. So you can use TTL to kind of figure out, broadly speaking, what your flash output needs to be. And then pressing that button, the TCM button, it will just translate that to a manual setting. And from there, you can make little adjustments if you need to do so. All right, so that's the end of my presentation. So I just wanted to talk about flash triggers. Yeah, so with flash triggers, you get many different types, many different brands, but all do the same thing to activate your flash off camera. Now, typically you have a flash triggering kit, transmitter, receiver, and within that category, you have manual flash triggers and TTL flash triggers. Manual flash triggers, dumb flash triggers, you need to adjust the flash output on the flash itself. With TTL flash triggers, the flash will communicate with the camera's internal light meter and figure out a flash output for you. It may be slightly incorrect, but it will put you in the right ballpark, more or less. And some flash triggers are known as flash controllers. So these flash triggers will allow you to make adjustments directly from the device itself, which is fantastic. And Godox X-System, so that as an example, that some flash brands have the receivers built into their units, into their flashes, into their speed lights. So it's just a lot easier, convenient, saves you money. So you only need the transmitter, and you can mix and match different Godox flashes as an example with the Godox X-System. So the two popular options, that would be the X2, the Xpro. My personal recommendation, if you're using multiple flashes, the Xpro is a good option. The TCM feature is also quite a bit of a bonus. But if you want to mix different flash systems, if you want to use an onboard flash, the X2 is definitely a good option then. All right. So I don't know if I missed something. So if you have any questions to ask, please drop them in the comment section. Okay. So I should have said that this is part of a series. I'm exploring different components or building blocks of off-camera flash. Previously, I did flash brackets. Today, obviously, doing flash triggers. I'm still deciding what the next one may be. It may be light stands. I already did a flash video, but I may do one again. The big one, I think, will be flash modifiers. So softboxes, umbrellas, beauty dishes, bundles, snooze, etc. That will definitely be, I think, the last one, because I need to do a lot of shooting beforehand just to show you the differences between softboxes, umbrellas, beauty dishes, etc. So the next one may be light stands or flashes. Just check out our Facebook page. You'll be notified well ahead of time as to what the next live will be. Okay, I see a request here for constant lighting. Yeah, that's going to be done after the off-camera flash series. I'm going to compare flashes and constant lights, and also some buying advice as far as constant lights are concerned. Yep, so definitely a big topic that is around the corner. So just so stay tuned. Check out our Camera Stuff Facebook page for any updates. All right, so another question here. Good evening. I shoot with a Fuji Xt2, needing to trigger an all-dish Electron Ranger, seeking a cost-effective trigger. Can you guide me, please? All right, so depending on what Electron it may be, I stand to be corrected, but all Electron use a different connector. So just show us a picture of what the Electron specifically may be. But as far as modern Electrons are concerned, you can use pretty much any flash triggering kit as long as it has a little cable that connects the receiver to the flash itself. So I can recommend any basic flash triggering kit. So if you're happy to adjust the settings from the flash itself, you can use a manual kit. I must keep on losing mine. All right, so I lost my receiver. It's around here somewhere. But any basic flash triggering kit, this transmitter and a receiver, so it has little inputs that will allow you to connect the receiver to the flash itself. So that's known as a PC sync cable. Yep, so we can definitely help you out. So what I can recommend, it's just the basic flash triggering kit. So that is if you're happy to make the adjustments on the Electron Ranger. It's the Ranger, right? Yeah, on the Ranger itself. All right, so light stands and modifiers will definitely be a great help. Yeah, so it's around the corner. Yeah, so as I said, light modifiers will be the big one because I want to be very precise there, because obviously there are massive price differences between big softboxes and small softboxes and umbrellas and whatnot. So I want to treat it as fairly as possible. So to give you all of the best indications as to what the differences are between all of these different light modifiers. Okay, do you also service camera lenses? Unfortunately not. We can recommend, if it's a Canon camera tech, there's also a place called Sunshine, what's it called? Sunray Photographic, Sunray Photographic. They're also highly recommended from us. So if you need help with that, just drop us a comment and we can send you some contact details. Okay, would you be able to use the mag mod fitting on the 8200? Yes. So the 8200 has two interchangeable heads. So it's the bare bulb and the Fresnel head. If you use the Fresnel head, it looks like this. So the Godox 8200 has the Fresnel head with a bare bulb. If you use the Fresnel head, the mag mod fitting just slides in comfortably over that. So short answer, yes, you can use the mag mod with the 8200. All right, so that's the end of the questions. I'm going to give it a minute or two. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. Okay, probably should have mentioned that if you want to use an X2 or an Xpro with a different type of flash, for example, a Nikon flash or a Canon flash, or different brand of flash, whatever it may be, you can do that, but you need a receiver for it, because the Yongnuo flash or the Nikon flash or the Canon flash will not have the Godox receiver built into it. So you need to supply the receiver. Now, we do sell those also. So if you have a Nikon flash, Canon flash, different branded flash, you can use these X2s or the Xpros. You just need the receiver for it. All right, so I think that's it from our side. So again, thank you for joining. It's been a good live chat, had a good discussion concerning flash triggers. So thank you for sticking around. Thank you for your questions. So until next time, we're going to do light stands or flashes next time around. We'll keep you updated. But yes, as I said, thank you for joining me and good night to you. Cheers. Bye-bye.